Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, I'm staring at her shoulder, but it's not what I see when I hear two fellas fighting in the booth.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
I think we have another winner. Oh my God, Paul! I think you're gonna have to get some new coffee cups at your house.
I got plenty of coffee cups, so that's the cool thing about it.
It looks like Philip won today.
Right.
909, big Philip, big winner. But just so you know, Paul's gonna like give you the coffee cups that he got free from the SPCA. Just so you know. It's either going to be that, or maybe it's an old cup. Actually, old cups could be cooler, right? If they're dirty, and maybe a cup that was in New York City, you know. Or he might just give you something that he bought at Starbucks when he was on the road and hasn't used since. Who knows? You know, Paul was here a minute ago. I think he's making his cup of coffee. But in the meantime, yeah, he's having problems with his coffee. So, meanwhile, I'm going to have my coffee and welcome everyone here. We are, let's see, Gal Gadot's Wonder, that would be a Friday show. Yes, waiting for Gadot. I see. I wasn't even reading these things till just now. You guys are so clever. Maybe you guys should have a show. You guys come on, make jokes for us. It'd be fun. So how's everybody's, I hope everybody's having a nice Wednesday. It's Wednesday? It's Wednesday. Yeah. Hope everybody's having a nice Wednesday.
Phil Gushman won the coffee cup.
He did. He did.
It's only fair because I've stayed at houses. I've been touring around the country before, and I'm sure I've stolen coffee cups from him.
Right, so this is just returning it.
Yeah, I might just be sending Phil back some.
Wouldn't that be something if you just send him back a cup? He's like, "Oh, this is my cup. I gave it to you when you were leaving town, and to fill up with."
It's entirely possible.
I told him that you were just going to give away free cups that you got from someone. You know, just an SPCA cup.
I heard you talking shit about me. You think I was deaf? I was right there. I was just 10 feet away hearing you deride your partner on the show because you had a couple of seconds of screen time for yourself. I'm telling you, this movie you've been getting into has gone to your head.
It's completely gone away.
A 1 minute clip of a Man on Mars starring Mike Mayhew as the Man on Mars, and you give me a role, and then I see the first cut of it, and it's just you, and it's me talking. So then a mutual friend who knows the film business goes, "Hey, trying to give yourself a little screen time there, huh? So why don't you put Paul in it?" "Oh, yeah, I'll put Paul in it." So he puts me in it, and now I'm in it. Cut out a line. Got it. Like, you can see him. You don't get to see as much of him.
You know, I was thinking of putting that line back in. You know what's funny is my sister, of all people, was disappointed because I didn't say a dirty word at the end. She goes, "Would you really say 'oh no' or would you say another word?" And I'm like,
got a point.
You know, I know, but it's I'm like, not that kids would watch, but I figured, you know, I don't know. Part of me was
well,
like,
what if you just cut it out on the oh shh?
Yes, that's one of those.
You know,
right?
it's that's a classic moment in cinema history for those of us who are old enough to understand that there was a cinema before today. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, man. You know, they're trapped. The guys, the detectives have them trapped. They got them pinned down. They're on top of the edge of a cliff. And Paul Newman goes, like, going to try and shoot it out with them. Robert Redford's ready to shoot it out. Paul Newman goes, "Oh, we can jump." and it's like 1,200 feet down into a raging rapids river. And Robert was like, no, no, no. He gets mad at him. He goes, why not? He goes, can't swim. And Paul Newman goes, are you kidding? The fall will probably kill you. And they run to this thing, and you go, oh, shit. So, your movie needs a no shit. Maybe not one that long.
Right.
Maybe your oh shit be a bit, or even just oh shh. But, I think your sister has a point there.
She might have a point there. She goes, is that really what you would say?
See, I don't know anything about writing movies, but writing songs, it should sound like it's you. Like Shamar Allen, who's one of my favorite people in the world, musician, producer, singer, dancer. When he wrote one of his first rock songs, he brought it to me. He said, what you think, Uncle Paul? I said, well, I'm really happy for you. You decided to get married. You met somebody that's captured your heart. And he goes, no, what you talking about? I'm like, well, obviously this is some girl you're going to take to meet your mother and fall in love. It's pretty clear with these lyrics. He goes, what you talking about, Uncle Paul? You know that ain't me. I said, exactly. That ain't how you talk. I've heard you and your friends talk. I've been at rehearsal. I've heard y'all talk about women. And it's not this Moon and June stuff that you're writing here, So what would you really say in this line? And he's talking about something. He goes, when we get our swerve on, it's all right. And I'm like, that sounds like you now.
Now we got something, right.
That's the trick, though. You should write like you talk. You should sing like you talk. And you should talk like you are.
Right. So, Mark, do you say you have a show? Does Mark Rosenbaum have a show? I didn't know. I'm so sorry, Mark. Tell us what the name of your show is. Put it in the thing, and maybe we'll push your show.
Well, we'll have to have Mark on to talk about his show.
Yeah,
Mark Mark is an artist. He does blown glass. He owns Rose Tree Gallery on the West Bank. I don't know if you've ever been, but and he sells at Jazz Fest. His stuff is really art. He's incredible. He's also one of the nicest guys that you could want to know to boot. So we should have him on and have him show a few of his things. And
that'd be awesome.
We usually talk about music. We could talk about that art. And, he's a threadhead, so he's bound to be, a wisecracker too.
He was. That's what I was saying. Like, while you were gone, I'm like, hey, man, you guys are funny. You start your own show, and we'll come and watch your show. And that's what he said. I do have a show. I have a show already. So, by the way, you see which cup I'm using. And this is the cup that you brought me.
Your gift from my friend Randy Baker in Ohio, which it took me about 2 months to get to you. I understand.
Oh, he does the opposite days of us. See, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's good that we don't compete there,
I like that. I don't want to compete with Mark. He's a friend and an artist. I would not want to compete with him.
Yes, no.
Where can they find your show, Mark?
Facebook, he said. He does one on Facebook. But I guess
we're talking about that, Mikey.
I know.
You were going to look into technology that would allow us to sync this up onto Facebook Live.
Which I know is easy. I just have to. Maybe Mark could tell me how to do it real quick. All I have to do is.
No, he's probably just Facebook Live. He's just hitting Facebook Live.
Oh, gotcha. Right.
I'm saying we were trying to do this so that we wouldn't just have Facebook Live and we'd have a little bit more control of it and ownership of it. But it would be, I think we'd probably get more people watching if we could figure that one out. Which means when I say we obviously I mean you.
if you can figure it out. But all I need to do is it shouldn't be hard. But I haven't. Your brother brought me yesterday. Remember we were talking about the New York stuff for the software. He brought it over yesterday, so I loaded that in, and so I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's start making some scenes in New York. Before you know it, you're going to be in your own scene without me anywhere in it, doing a New York skit. It's going to be happening.
We're going to have you play somebody. I'll figure it out.
4:00, right? Only on Facebook. Gotcha. 4:00 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Cool.
Well, a lot of folks do. Alex McMurray has a show Tuesday evenings, and John Rankin on Monday evenings on Facebook. They just Facebook Live. I think John does it from his front porch. He's got an awesome front porch in the Bayou St. John area. And Alex, his wife, is an artist, and I don't know this for a fact. I'm assuming she contributed. He's got a really cool, 70s looking dressed set with his name and glitter behind him, Alex.
I've seen it. Yeah, it pops up in my feed.
One of my favorite things about the show is when his son Max just kind of makes the scene. He's a young kid and he's got a lot of energy. You know, sometimes he'll just be there.
That's neat. One of
It's
the things I
Alex.
loved about Alex would like set up on the street somewhere and just start playing music, and it was nuts. It's like, what do you? Wow, he's just setting up on the street with his phone and just gonna play music for you. Here I am. I'm going live. I'm
I've
just
seen him do
somewhere.
that.
Yeah, I've seen him do that with the Tin Men and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I'm sure with the Tin Man. Yeah, yeah. I know what you're
Rose
talking about
Street,
now. They Rose
Rose
Tree
Street
Blown
blown
Glass
blown
Studio
glass. Yeah,
on Facebook. Rose Tree Blown Glass Studio on Facebook. You
that's
try
right.
saying that 3 times fast. It
I'm
ain't
gonna throw
easy.
that in our description, Mark, just in case anybody wants to look it up, or whatever. If forgets what it was later on the day, I'll just throw it in the description. We're done.
Well, I
Remind
know that
everyone.
Moo has been here for Jazz Fest, and Phil Gusman and Joy, his wife, have been down for Jazz Fest. So they've probably seen Mark's work, if not even already own a piece, you know. But anyway, so yeah, I'm glad we have that up there, and we'll, like I said, we'll have to have him on and talk about his thing.
Oh, apparently he was on WWL this morning.
Damn,
Right?
I was gonna take a picture of it and post it on his Facebook page. I was watching; it was really cool. It's a great little story.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't know. Gosh, when's the last time I watched local TV? My goodness. I don't even know. When's the last time
You
you
know,
watched
I've
local
been
TV?
watching the WWL morning show my entire life.
I watched it
My
for years. I
mother,
mean,
my mother was hard of hearing, so whenever she had the TV on, she had it cranked. So wherever you were in the house, you were watching what she was watching. You know, and she watched WWL in the morning, Channel
wasn't that
Six
Eric
in the afternoon.
Paulson?
Yeah, well, Paulson's been there a long time. I don't know. He's probably been there since the '80s. I think that's when I remember him coming. He might be the late '70s, but you know,
I remember
he
he
was
used to
the
love you
young.
guys, right? I mean, I used to see him at the shows sometimes.
Oh yeah, he was. Well, he's a big music fan. Eric loves music.
Gotcha.
I mean, I don't know if you watch the show at all. Like
I do, yeah. From
he
time, well, I haven't watched
he
in
loved
years, but
he loved Fats Domino dearly, and when he interviews, especially older musicians who he loves and respects, he gets he gets like a little kid. He's so excited. He loves music, and when Cowboy Mouth was popular back in the late '90s, he was really good friends with our manager Stephen Klein, and both of them were single men at the time, and they came out and enjoyed the shows together. And the fact that there were lots of girls around that
yeah, yeah.
were
Young girls,
impressed that
that's
Steve was the manager.
yeah, yeah.
He's married with 2 kids now, so I'm just talking about old days for
Oh
Eric.
yeah, dude. It was that 40 years ago. Jeez, 30 years ago. It's
One out 15 years ago.
is that all?
For
I mean,
me.
wasn't that the 90s?
The
That's 30
90s,
years
the
ago.
90s, but I left in 2005. So
Gotcha.
November 19th at 1 o'clock in the morning of this year, I will officially be out for as long as I was in, and my soul will be cleansed, and my karma will be
Cleanse.
draining off for years to come.
Dude, what's that yellow piece behind you? That's cool. What is that?
It's Abbey Road. I bought that at the Abbey Road gift store.
Gotcha. Oh, so that's
I
just like
have that's an autographed Beatles picture under there that I got from. I was working as a set dresser on a film, and the woman who was my boss had been the president of the Beatles fan club in 1968 when she was like 13 years old. And she lived in Hawaii. And when they came to Hawaii, whoever in the fan club in Liverpool sent her a bunch of photos for being the fan club. And she had like, I don't think they gave her like 25 or something autographed Beatle photos. And she was down to 3, and she gave me one of them. I was pretty excited.
yeah, that's pretty awesome actually. I've got
Yeah, and then Fats Domino is behind me. And that's autographed from his grandson, Chevis Primer, who was a great singer that sang with me at Jazz Fest. I think he does more construction these days. Got settled down.
over here to my left. Over here to my left, I have that Steve Gleason punt thing. When I was in the hospital, somebody got me a print of and who did this thing again? I forgot the name of the artist. John Michael. Gosh, John Michael something. I can't read it from here. I'm going blind in my old age. But anyway, it's the Steve Gleason thing when the first game back, 2007 or whatever, after Katrina, and he
Oh
blocked
yeah,
the
yeah,
punt, the Atlanta game. And
yeah.
so, yeah, and I've got everybody signed it. Drew Brees signed it and everything. And I'm just looking at it thinking, September 25th, 2006 was the date, the return to the Dome. But I'm looking at it thinking, my goodness, Drew Brees is gone now too. So it's like end of an era. I was just,
Oh, it's definitely the end of an era. Although, I mean, Drew was great. He's one of the all-time greats. But like a lot of the greats that I admired throughout my life in football, Terry Bradshaw, Joe Montana, to name a couple of guys, maybe even Dan Marino, who loved the game so much they played to the detriment of the team.
right.
You
And,
know,
and you felt it was the same thing with him that maybe he,
well, he lost the zip on the ball 3 years ago. And then
well,
he even,
yeah,
like in the offseason, he even said he was working with a new trainer to try and learn to throw more from his leg so he could get some power back. And I thought, well, that's not going to work. Because if somebody could have figured that out, they would have figured it out a long time ago.
right,
And so even if he had been healthy, which he was like not even at 65%, he had torn this and torn that he was trying to play through. Gutty, the man's brave, no doubt.
right,
But that's to me, the team player is the guy who turns to Jameis and goes, okay, I'm fucked up. My body hurts. I'm going to tell you what to do through this helmet. I'm going to make you a
right,
better quarterback if you'll just listen. And if
right.
you don't listen, I'll get the coach to put me back in.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Well, when he got hurt, I felt like he started the season okay. I mean, I know he hasn't been able to
I
throw
think
that
he got
long
hurt
ball
like
for a
what,
while.
third game?
It was like the third or fourth game when they
I
rolled
think
him
if
and
he
then
could have
he
stayed
broke his ribs.
healthy, yeah,
Right.
because Sean's offense is built for the short pass, and Drew's the most accurate short passer in the history of the NFL.
Right.
So I think that's what they were both counting on. If he could just stay healthy for one season, and he couldn't the last 3 seasons. He
No.
played banged up. The previous 2 seasons, he was banged up and sat out games. Sat out games under Teddy, sat out games under Taysom. And this year, he was beyond what we
Right.
knew and way beyond what was really serviceable for an NFL quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. How can you with ribs broken? My goodness. Have you ever just hurt your ribs? It's like it's
I
the most
can't
painful.
imagine how much pain he had to be in and how much he loved the game that he played through that kind of pain, because I haven't cracked my ribs, but I've gotten hit there pretty hard, and breathing is a drag.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And,
You
and of
can't
course,
get up.
if the guys
Nothing.
know you got a cracked rib, that's where they're aiming for when they go to tackle you.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yeah. They're right in the middle of your body.
no one can ever question the man's guts. That's for sure. He's a gutty player. I think the team might have gone further if he could have just
Right.
helped the younger guys instead of playing. But it's hard to quit doing what you love. I had to stop doing what I love for the last 3 years, and it's a different mindset. And it got forced on me, much I guess like it got forced on him. But you have to stop thinking of yourself in the way that you thought of yourself your whole life.
And
You
you
know,
do have kind of have a point. I mean, Taysom was getting better week after week. I mean, early on he
I
wasn't
was,
making decisions quick enough, but
you know, I
he
mean,
was.
I think Taysom's a talented athlete, but at 31, it might be too late to start learning how to read defenses.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he's an amazing athlete. In fact, he's the fastest guy on the team, and he's over 6 feet tall. He's a great athlete who can play the quarterback position, but mostly is going to look off his first receiver, maybe his second one, and then he's going to take off running.
Right.
And
Right.
that's exciting, but unless you're Patrick Mahomes, it's tough to get to the Super Bowl like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And not only Patrick Mahomes. Oh my God, that kid. That kid's ridiculous, right? Jeez and Pete's.
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
He's
But
next level.
it's time
Yep.
almost to bring on our guest. So before
Let
we
me
bring
see
her
if
on, I
she's
just
ready.
want to say,
It looks like
well,
she's there. Yeah,
I'll
talk
talk
about
a
her.
little bit before you do. She and her husband, Mark Carroll, both musicians, moved here. I guess it's been about 6 years now. And I met them when they first came because they were friends with the casting agent for the movie LBJ. And had a small role in LBJ. It got edited down too, if you blink, you miss me. But, I think once again, it was because the other actors at the table feared my natural heat.
I mean, I
And they
feared it.
lobbied.
Obviously, I feared it because I had to edit you
Yeah, you
down
cut
too.
me out. So, but anyway, so then the casting director was a nice lady and sent these two folks out to my show. I brought them out with her, and I was playing the Ogden, and it's New Orleans, So I go, so she says, "You're a singer, and I'm playing on Tuesday with my friend John Rankin. He's a pretty good jazz player, and if you want to come sing some jazz songs, I'm sure he'll know them." And they were just like, "You're serious?" Of course, that's what we do here. Everybody sort of jumps up and plays together. And it told me like many times since that that's not in New York where she sang for years, not in Los Angeles where she sang for years. That would never happen. But welcome to New Orleans, and they are here to stay. You know,
It's the Big Easy, man. You got to remind everybody.
he
Remember
sings
Michael?
jazz and he sings Americana, and so they rarely sing or play together. But they're both great at what they do.
Absolutely, yeah. Mark's wonderful too. So I'm gonna bring her out now. And hello, how are you doing this morning?
Hi.
Doing okay this morning?
Welcome
I
to,
heard we woke
you
you
know,
up. Like, you never get up this early in the morning, so thank you for getting up with us.
Well, usually this is when I'm getting good REM sleep.
I understand. Go
yeah,
ahead,
I
Paul.
kind of wake up to do the show too.
Oh, no. Well, you're another one. You don't sleep.
No, I don't sleep. But you know, Einstein believed you only needed 4 hours of sleep a day. So
Look where it got him.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
he
not
was
around
smart.
anymore, so
Yeah, it killed him, right?
right, killed him. So,
Well,
go
as the
ahead,
great
Paul.
John Boutte once said, life is a sexually transmitted disease that's always fatal.
I
Yeah,
was enjoying your repartee about sports.
where are you now?
Yeah, because I know how much you love
Yeah.
sports. Not even a little bit.
And the funny thing
Yeah,
is we haven't actually talked about sports in ages. It's probably been about 20 shows, and like I
I
said,
don't know
we
how
don't
it
know
came
what the
up
hell we're
even.
gonna. Me
Happened.
either.
Well,
We don't do
it's
sport.
good because it's educational for me, and it allows me to take a
We
little
normally
quick snooze while I'm watching you. I can just close my eyes.
I will say that we actually don't talk sports. It is getting close to Saints season, and we do talk Saints. It's a higher. For the last 15 years, it's been part of the sports world. But for the first part of my life, being a Saints fan was not being part of the professional sports world.
I
It was
see.
watching professional teams come to town to play the Saints.
Well, I always
Who,
find it really fascinating to listen to everybody. I had something I don't even remember what it was. I had to go to that studio down on Annunciation. You know, I actually had an audition, and when I walked in, the guard at the front desk was really moody and angry, and I said, trying to be cheerful, you know, being a little actorly. I said to him, "So, how's it going?" And he said, "Well, the game, blah blah." Like he just launched into everything that happened on the game the day before, and I went along with it, having not seen the game, having no interest in the game. But I went along with it, and he went on to the point where I said, "You know, I'm going to be late.
yeah,
I need to
you
sign in
know,
and go upstairs."
and you were here for the good years. You know, like in the old days, like my friend Rick Kernhauser does all my artwork for my records. When he was a kid, if the Saints won, the kids could go out and play on a Sunday. But if they didn't, you had to do yard work. And they had the best yard in the entire neighborhood because the Saints never won. You know, I mean,
Man,
they
you guys
just
take it
never
really
won.
seriously here.
I
Yes.
was probably 29 years old when they had a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and the Rams kicker Mike Lansford kicked the last second field goal to win. And I lay on the floor crying and pounding my fists. So yeah,
Wow.
it's not it's a disease here. And for 40 years it was tough, man. It was like, I remember one season where they hardly won any games. The first game of the season was the Cleveland Browns, and I'm at the Dome, and they got beat so badly that I just told my friends, just leave me. I was drunk on Dome foam, and I'm just sitting there, and the Dome's emptying around me, and I won't even look up. I'm just looking down. And I look up, place is almost empty, and about 10 rows away is one of my best friends, Steve Joubert. And he's a funny guy. He sees me, and he just sadly lifts up his glass and goes, "Wait till next year." His first game of the season.
Right.
You know,
It's never
so
really, I think that I went to maybe one Yankees game the whole time that I lived in New York. And I have to and it was a long time ago. I mean, this was the very late 70s, very early 80s. And I have to confess that I had taken a Quaalude to go.
nice. That's not a good
Yeah.
thing to do at a ballpark, though, because you can fall
Oh,
asleep
no, it
at a
was perfect.
baseball game
It was,
without the Quaalude.
it was perfect.
You know,
All right,
people don't know this
somebody
about
called in
Paulie.
late. They want us to stop talking sports and talk about your music. Uh,
Yes.
so you have a new record out called,
Love and Other Difficulties.
which is a wonderful title. I love that title.
Well, I sort of stole it.
Oh yeah.
It's from a book of Rilke poems.
I was just letting somebody had asked who this interesting lady was. They'd missed it, so I just typed it in, Paul, in case you were wondering what that was.
Oh.
That you just
you
said.
used my
Oh,
name.
interesting
Well,
because
no,
I
remember
took a
it's your account,
prelude
so
to a baseball
Ah.
game.
The interesting lady's talking baseball, but she really knows jazz.
yes. And apparently New York City, right?
I know a bit about New York City. I do.
You
I
grew
was
up there.
there in the fun years. Well, I was
Can
there.
you? I don't know how much of these. I don't know how much of your New York stories you can tell, but is it possible to publicly tell the one about the time you got physically assaulted and it got taken care of?
Yeah, I can tell that story because I think everybody's dead. Paul's talking about. So again, this was. I don't even know when. It has to have been in the late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in there, because my recollection's just a little fuzzy. And I was living in Little Italy on the corner of Spring and Mulberry in a tenement that was owned by John Gotti, because all those buildings were owned by John Gotti in that block. That's where his social club was. So you would see the
Ah,
boys out in front of his social club smoking cigars, and cars would come and go like it was the airport, dropping people off, picking people up. And I had a roommate, a very pretty blonde roommate, because the boys like their blondes. And we would go out to the clubs. And that particular night we were walking home, it was literally like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We were walking along Spring Street toward Mulberry Street. And we hadn't crossed Broadway yet. When you crossed Broadway, between Broadway and like Lafayette and Mulberry Street, that area was safe. That was where Little Italy technically began. So before you crossed Broadway, you were in no man's land. You were in Soho technically, but in terms of the people who ran things, you were in no man's land because the West Side boys had the other side of 6th Avenue. So between 6th Avenue and Broadway, not in safe. And there was a car full of young guys following us. They had a Cadillac. They were following us in the car, and they were calling out things and saying nasty things. And I'm a little bit defiant. I think I've stopped being defiant now. I'm much more like, okay, whatever you want. But in those days, I would plant my feet, and I planted my feet. And can we curse on this thing?
Absolutely.
I told them to fuck themselves. I said, why don't you go fuck yourself? And the kid who was driving put the car in park in the middle of the street, jumped out, and punched me in the face.
Oh
and
my God.
in the jaw. And I was like this. I mean, it was bad. It was swollen. And my roommate, my very pretty blonde roommate, got very upset. We made it to our apartment, and she had memorized the license plate, and she wanted to call the police. And I kept saying, don't call the police. Don't call the police. But she called them anyway, and they arrived immediately. And it wasn't just street cops, it was detectives. And they wanted to, so they had already checked out the license plate, and it had been the West Side. So the West Side Italians, it was somebody's son. So a few hours later, there's a knock at the door, and it was this guy named Joe the Crow. And Joe the Crow was a typical wise guy. And, he talked like you imagine a wise guy speaks when you see them in the movies. They talk like this. And he was saying things. He said to me, I heard you had a little problem this morning. And I said, yeah, because at this point now, I can't move my face. He
Right.
said, "We would like to take care of it for you. The families will take care of the whole thing." And I'm like, "Okay, fine." And my roommate is more and more agitated, and she's, "No, we called the police. The police are going to take care of it." And he said, "No, we would like you to let the family take care of it." So fruit baskets start arriving and food starts arriving and nothing I can eat. I can't eat anything. And when the detectives came, I told them I wasn't going to press charges. And they were really upset. I mean, they really, really wanted me. The kid who punched me in the face, his father was the West Side Mafia's big guy. He was their capo.
Wow.
And so they worked it out amongst each other, and we didn't have to pay rent for like 3 or 4 months. So I was perfectly content to have my, I can't eat any of this food because I can't chew, and not have to pay rent for a few months. Completely okay with me. And the detectives were, they were on us for a while. I mean, they really, really wanted me to press charges on this kid. But if I did,
Right.
I wouldn't have a place to live, even though it was the
Right.
other side. They always worked things out amongst themselves. They never
Right.
involved the police. You don't go to the
Hey,
cops.
have you moved your iPad since we started? Because when we first started, we were getting excellent reception from you, and you've been frozen the whole time you're telling the story. We can hear you, but your face
Oh,
is
okay.
frozen.
Well, frozen might be good. No, it's where it was. I have Cox Wi-Fi.
I know.
Uh,
So I said damn Cox cable when people were because they were mentioning it because I think they wanted to see your impression of your face when you were
Here,
like
let me
doing
see
the
if I can. Let's see. Let's see if I move closer. You want a tour?
hey.
I'll move. I will
right
move
now, we have a great
to.
frozen shot of your curtain.
Let's see. This is. I am standing. Look, I have a fan over my. So now I'm right next to my router. It makes no difference. I'm still frozen, right?
Makes no difference.
Yeah, and look, there's Marky in the background.
Hey, Marky, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, hey.
Hadn't seen him for a little while. It's good to see you, man.
There's the back of his head. No,
He's
it's
washing dishes, or what's he got going on over
Mark washing dishes. He's a guitar player.
there? Never gonna happen, huh?
Not gonna happen.
Well, we could maybe have you try to call in again.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to try to call, because
You know what
Might,
I'll
that
do?
might,
I'll call in from Mark's computer. This will be like our third device.
all
the
right.
third. Yeah, if you want
Give it a
to.
shot.
And while you're doing that, we're gonna talk about New York gangsters, because oh my goodness, now you got me all inspired.
Well, did you see The Irishman, Mikey?
No, I hadn't seen it yet.
Oh,
But
you got to see it. One of the executive producers is a guy named Nicholas Pileggi. And in the 70s, Nicholas Pileggi was a crime reporter for the New York Times. And he wrote a book called The Mafia is Not an Equal Opportunity Employer. And there's a great scene that's in his book that's also in the show. But you really, his historic knowledge of how the mafia infiltrated the unions and the working peoples of America. He's like a professor on the subject. So he spent his life chronicling. And there's a scene in the movie where the head of the mafia in New York, see, he's figured out that being the head of the Irish Italian American Club is a great front. You can funnel money through there. They can have parades and things. So that he's leading the the Italian American Club on the parade on Columbus Day, which is a sacred holiday for Italians, past Columbus Circle, the statue of Christopher Columbus. And this other mafia boss, Crazy Joe, they called him, has him hit. But Crazy Joe was in prison and he made friends with African Americans. And he started hiring black guys on his crew, which the mafia frowned on. They're not an equal opportunity employer. So they didn't like him already for doing that, but he had the black guys do the hit. And to the mafia chieftains, this was the biggest affront. He killed a mafia boss in front of Columbus Circle on Columbus Day while he was head of the Italian American Club, and he used black people to do it.
oh
So they
wow,
decided to make his hit equally personal. They waited until he was in Little Italy, where everybody felt safe. They waited till he was having dinner with his family, and they had somebody shoot him in front of his family.
Oh wow! In front of his
To send
family.
a
Wow.
message. You know?
Yep.
The mafia is not an equal opportunity. It's a great movie. And the CGI allows you to see Pesci and De Niro and Harvey Keitel age at different ages, young and old and very old. So it's pretty interesting. And some people found it long, but I had read a lot of those books. One of my brothers, I had 4 older brothers, and so
Now I have no
there's all
sound.
these great.
Oh really? Because we hear you.
Oh, there we go.
Hey.
All right.
Well, I'm excited, but I'm here. Oh, look, it's kind of gooey and gauzy,
Yeah,
which
it
is,
looks like I'm watching you on Quaaludes.
well, or through a Hollywood filter for aging actors.
Yeah, it's like a
Well, you might-
sepia tone or something, right?
Oh, you could be a hologram.
I am a hologram.
Okay, so
I'm
your
not
record.
really here.
We've had more
What's that?
foolishness today than normal, but how many originals, how many covers?
Let's see, there are 6 of mine, and then 2 that were Oscar Rossignoli compositions that I wrote lyrics for, and 1 from some random guy named Sanchmo.
That's
What's
one of the
that
things
guy's
one of the things I like about your music, because I'm friends with John Boutte for a very long time, and you'll make me think of each other in that you'll like songs, and
Oh, I thought it worked.
you'll like a similar kind of delivery too. It's a laid back on the and y'all both short. Yes, y'all are both. You know, I think John in part likes you because you're a jazz singer, but also because he rarely finds people shorter than him, and so he feels completely comfortable with you. But so I know jazz singers mostly through John, and John is so committed to the standards that even though we've written some really cool songs, he has strayed away from them because his heart is in the standards. Where for you, writing jazz songs has been a bigger part of your career as singing standards has been. You've always written, and your songs are really good. And that's one of the things I look forward to about the new record is that there's going to be new Carmela songs, and you keep mentioning that these are happier than you've been in the past, and you're known for your sad songs and whatnot. But I like happy, or
Well,
as
I
George
would
Jones.
say dark. I would say my stuff is usually a little darker, and even some of these are dark love songs. There's only one kind of gooey, syrupy
Your
love song
song
that's
on
way out of.
previous record, the song about S&M I would count that as a dark song. Mike, you
I
would
think
like
that's
that
a
one.
little dark. It wasn't S&M. It was fetishism.
Fetishism.
Yeah,
That's actually a better,
S&M.
right? Because it doesn't necessarily have to
Yeah.
be S&M, right? I mean, it's any fetish, right? That you were kind
Well,
of
there
talking
was
about.
some
I think.
kneeling and there was some stilettos to the chest too, but
No, there were no stilettos to the chest. That's one of your tunes. You're the one that wrote the tune about strawberries and, Chet Baker and. Mhm.
yeah, I did write that tune. My second ex got a credit on it because she harangued me that she had contributed to the song. And now in looking back, I feel it's quite correct that the only credit of a song she has in our 15 years together is called Evil Can Be Lovely.
Or not
Yes, it
so
can be.
much.
Or not so much.
Well, I actually, grew up on the Great American Songbooks. I mean, I love covering the standards. By the time I got here, I don't know if you've ever seen my standard book. My standard book is like, this thick. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tunes that I know. And what happens is over the years, as much as I love them and I love to keep trying to find ways to sing them, everybody has sung them. There are so many great versions of the songbook songs. How can you improve? How can you improve on Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, June Christie, Anita? Like, really, how can you improve on them?
Right.
And So yeah, I cover them, and there's 3 cover standards on this record that are all dysfunctional. Oh, look, I'm seeing the comments now too, which is very cool. There are 3 dysfunctional love songs, except for Billy Strayhorn, which is about flowers. A flower is a lovesome thing, which is this beautiful, beautiful ode to flowers. Because I wrote an ode to bugs, to cicadas, I figured I'd balance it out, you know, with some flora. But the songbooks Great American Songbooks are where you really get to feel somebody else's emotions in a new way. But I do get a little like, okay, I need to sing something different. And this is the first place I've ever lived where musicians like to play what I write.
Well, I find that as a songwriter, you're not so much choosing to write a song. Mikey, I think, can attest to this too. You're compelled to write a song. A song comes to you
Yeah.
and begins to harass your mind and your soul and your heart, and it's singing to you all the time. And if you don't write it down, it's going to drive you mad. And
Yeah.
that's songwriting. You know, you're compelled to write. You have to write. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's great. You know, I think it's one of my things I enjoy about your music. I know that I got into a conversation with a music journalist here in New Orleans once, who I won't name, and I was asking him why art on Shamar Allen's first record, "Meet Me on Frenchman Street," and that song is such a classic sounding New Orleans song that other bands were playing it on Frenchman Street. And he said, "Yeah, I don't see why guys like you and Shamar feel like they need to write the New Orleans songbook. It's already written." And I was like, "How do you think it got written?" People
Yeah.
write songs.
Well, I think that especially with what you write things that are so relatable, and you write the best earworms. Like sometimes I really curse you because I'll get one of your tunes stuck in my head, and I'll listen to it, which is my trick for getting rid of an earworm, and it still stays stuck in my head. And then I'll have to go through like somebody else's music to get your stuff out of my head. So you write these great hooks, you write these great earworms, you write stories, which I really appreciate. I really, my big beef with a lot of new written music is that it's repetitive, like the same lyric over and over and over and over and over again. And you don't do that. And I can't do that. Like, I wish I could do that. I have to write. I don't even like to repeat a second B part. Like, I know in rock and roll, a B part is called something else, but
Oh, we have
in
this
jazz,
discussion, you and I. In jazz, Mike, I don't know if you know this. You probably do because you know a lot about different kinds of music. But in jazz, I'm going to fuck it up. The verse is I don't know. How's it go again? Like, we call it a first chorus.
No, the verse is not a chorus. The verse is a setup or an introduction to the
It's the
story,
intro.
and then the choruses are the verses. In rock and roll, they're called verses, but in jazz, they're called choruses.
And then what's the hook?
And then the B
refrain?
part is a bridge.
Gotcha. So just go straight into a bridge. So you got your little verses and then bridges, but you call them the chorus. Gotcha.
Well,
Interesting.
Another
in
thing
jazz, it's a standard verse. AABA is the form.
Yeah.
That's a
See,
standard
guys
jazz.
start talking to me like that, and I just start thinking, man, why don't we just play some music?
Come
It's
on,
like
you can get your
football.
head around AABA. Come
I
on.
don't want to get my head around shit. I want to play. I don't want to
Like-
fucking theory, man. Theory's in you already. You know it. Let yourself go and play. And you don't have to
Yeah.
know why you're playing the shit. You just play the shit.
Well,
Oh.
keep in mind, I am completely uneducated. I barely got out of high
Another
school.
thing I
so-
like about it is that you're not a jazz snob. You don't have all these, not that my jazz friends are snob. My jazz friends are very nice to me about my lack of musical knowledge. They're very cool. Craig
Not
Klein.
me. They're mean to me about it because you should know.
Yeah, they tried that with me. And then so I just threw some rock and roll at them. And when they fucked it up, I went, "You should know."
Yeah, I had to get to.
In fact, I had a meltdown prior to the pandemic. This is like 6 years ago, 5 years ago. Susan Cowsill was doing a Cat Stevens covered in vinyl. And I love Cat Stevens, and I was so pleased she asked me to be a part of it. I love Susan. It's Alex McMurray on guitar, who's brilliant, one of my favorite guitar players to work with. It's Joe Cabral on bass, and Russ, her husband, Russ on drums, who's one of my favorite people in the world, let alone drummers. And so we're playing this one song, and Cat Stevens is part Greek, and he's got some Greek time signatures in there. There's not classic pop 4/4 and 3/4. There's some 6/8. There's also other stuff. So we're doing a song, and there's a break in the song. I think it's Tuesday's Dead, or whatever the song is. And I come back in, and they come back in behind me, and I'm like, they go, "You're early," and I go, "I'm not early." And they go, "Well, you have a chart right there in front of you. Why don't you look at it?" I said, I wouldn't even know how to, and I'm not early. And they look at their charts and they count, Alex counting and Joe's counting, and they look at each other and they nod and they go, "Well, we just counted and we're coming in on time, and so you have to be early." I was like, you know what? I've been singing this song for 30 fucking years. I know Cat Stevens. I love Cat Stevens. I know this song. I know where to come in. I don't need a fucking chart. Ever since Katrina, you guys have been making me use charts, and they're making me fucking crazy. I want to play music. I don't want to read. When I read, I'll go home and I'll sit in a chair with a cup of tea. I want to play some music. This is how it goes. So they like got big eyed and they're like, "Paul's being a dick, huh?" And they kind of get on with the music playing. And then they look at each other and they go like, "Hmm." And Alex goes, "You were right, man." I said, "Yeah, I know I was right, man. Fuck, I'll never use a chart again."
Lion ass charts. Get the hell out of here with that thing. Who wrote these things?
Well, they wrote
Well,
their
well,
own. But Cat's
with
tricky.
your original stuff, you have to put with jazz musicians and especially with an original tune, you have to put a chart in front of somebody, and they still complain. I mean, there's always this discussion. Well, this chord should be diminished, blah blah blah, with a seventh, blah blah blah, and I mean, this goes on and on and on. And I always just turn to them and say, just play the tune. I don't really care what you play behind me. Play in the right key, and I'll do what I need to do.
Right.
That was the question I was
Yeah.
about to ask you, because in rock and roll, the guys do just play the song, right? Like you get a new guitar player, you don't know what, he's not going to sound like the last guy. He's going to play the chords, but it's going to be his own thing. But I was wondering if jazz is, like when you got charts and stuff, does it always kind of sound the same no matter who you sub in, or do they really change from musician to musician?
It changes from musician to musician because everybody plays a little differently. There are the rules people, like the people who are, it's the rules and this is what you have to do. And I don't hire them.
Right.
And then there are the people that you can put anything in front of them and they interpret it their way. And if they've played with the other people around them, or even if they haven't played with the other people around them, they bring something new to the table, and they're more interesting. They're more fun to play with. They push me. I like to be pushed into, I like to play with people who are better than me. Like, it was something I learned a long time ago when we left New York and we moved to LA, which was a huge mistake.
Can't imagine.
Oh
Oh,
my
mistake.
God. And 14 years of me complaining I want to go home every day for 14 years.
Wow.
But when we moved there, I started playing with people who were really well-known old jazz guys. And it was like getting a degree. But that was what I had always been told to do. Always play with people who are better than you. And they were miles ahead of me. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, really. I had no idea. And compared to these people who had, I played with a piano player whose first gig out of high school in art was with Coltrane. So
Wow.
those were, and Sinatra's bass player and Sarah Vaughan's bass player, like people who had toured with the best, and they were the the best. Mike Melvoin, who was the guy who arranged Tom Waits' Heart of Saturday Night record.
Oh
So he
wow.
brought all of those jazz musicians into that record. Playing with him was beyond an education. And so it was always play with people who are better than you. They push you, they beat you up. I mean, I got really beaten up by musicians on both on bandstands and in rehearsals, but it taught me a great deal, and here it's like butter. I mean, here it's so different here. It's so different to play with people here. It is so weird to have people ask you up to sing. I mean, in LA, it's just like the freeway. They don't want you out of the way. They want you dead, and
Wow.
in New York, people don't invite you up. Is
Yeah, I
generally
remember
like once
when
in a while you get invited up, but
my friend, Antoine Deal, he sings on Frenchman.
yeah, yeah.
When he first came to town, he lived in LA. His job was working for a dentist office service, answering service. So it was like a dozen dentists. He was taking calls and making appointments. He did that for 8 hours a day, and he sang
Oh,
on the
that's
weekends when he could. He sang for love. He got such a gorgeous voice, and I was like, "Come to New Orleans, you'll work. You'll be a singer." And he'd always wanted to try, and he came down. I hired him for a bunch of Rolling Roadshow gigs, but then I started bringing him around, and I have a lot of musician friends like Debbie Davis, and if I say, "Hey, can this guy sing? He's really good," they'll go, "If you say he's good, then yeah, I'll let him up." Or Glenn David Andrews, whoever, people that I know I could walk in and they would be happy to see me, and I could say, "Hey, this is a really talented person." They say, "Sure, yeah." And within like a month, Antoine didn't need help anymore because he got so many gig offers. But the first thing he said to me when I took him to a club, and I think it was Debbie that waved him up, or maybe it was the Jazz Vipers, and he just looked at me and he went, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "This would never happen in LA. First of
Yeah,
all, your friend would not," he said, "first of all, your friend wouldn't invite you to sing. If they did happen to love you enough to invite you to sing, you would be asked to attend at least 4 rehearsals before you got on stage to do the improv
or
moment."
or they ask you to sing, so it's their third set. It's close to midnight. It's the second to the last song
Oh my
of their
God.
and they reluctantly invite you up.
Right. When at that point when the crowd is pretty much thinned out and they
Gone.
don't. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
all
No.
drunk.
Well, as you discovered, we met at the Ogden show that I did, and that was a Thursday. I said, "Why don't you come out next Tuesday and sing with John Rankin and me?" And
And it
that
was
was
really funny because I was like, who is this guy? Really, who is this guy? Yeah, he's like, wow, the songs, it was the Wright brothers. And the songs were really great. And I had this really nice chat with Spencer, after your gig was over. And then I was talking to you and you would meet me at the Columns. And I went thinking you wouldn't be there. Yeah, like
He gave me a
I
fake number.
I didn't dare not go in case you did go, but I just assumed I was going to show up and you weren't going to be there because that would be New York.
Right. You know what's interesting about New Orleans is like in New Orleans we do it the same thing. We have people come up and we look at it a little bit differently. It's like that's one less song we have to sing. Come on up and sing a song. But I just wonder in LA and New York if they just need the attention so much that's like, no, I can't give away any of the.
I think it's competitive. I think it's competitive here, but in New York, it is cutthroat because it's so hard to get a gig in New York. It's hard to get a
especially
gig
now.
in New York.
I mean, even
And
in the
jazz,
70s and 80s, it was different.
yeah, it was. It was. But I was always mostly in the early 80s, I was somebody who was a part of other people's gigs, like I was a sideman, and I had 1 or 2 gigs of my own. I was young, I was a chick singer, and it was still old school for chick singers. Like, you sit over there and we'll call you up to sing.
Hmm.
And, in LA, I had 2 steady gigs. And then again, I was a sideman as well. Here, I'm not a sideman. I would really love to be a sideman again, because the hustle to find gigs is still a hustle.
It's always a hustle.
Yeah. And I've gotten really lazy in the pandemic.
The
Well, right.
pandemic's
I mean,
definitely changed the way I feel about looking for gigs. First of all, I don't have my voice all the way back yet, but I'm hopeful now. It's coming along, and the pandemic's given me a chance to go. I don't want to hustle like I used to. I still want to sing for people, but that, despite all my rage, I was still just a rat in a cage.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about you and John Boutte is y'all love jazz. Y'all truly love jazz.
By
John,
the way, I love that you mentioned in the same sentence with him. I'm honored.
John has this. He really doesn't know pop music if it wasn't the music of his, childhood. So I taught him Paul Simon, which we recorded, and for the first 6 months that we performed it, he would say, "Here's a song that Paul taught me by Paul Sanderson, writer up in New York." Eventually, he figured out it was Paul Simon, But
And Paul Simon did not be happy about that.
I'm telling this story because he had an oblivious to especially white pop music. But you love jazz, and you were at a wedding on Martha's Vineyard and got seated with a musician. Could you tell us that one?
Yeah, when Mark and I first met, Mark and I were fixed up on a blind date by a woman who really didn't like me then, never has liked me, never will like me. And honestly, I don't like her either. We're oil and water. But she fixed me up with Mark. And then she was getting married, and Mark was the best man to her fiance, who he didn't even know. Martha's Vineyard. Don't get me started. So I'm at the rehearsal dinner, and I'm seated next to this guy, and we're chatting. And he said to me, "So what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm a musician. I'm a singer." And he said, "Oh, what kind of music? What do you work in?" I said, "I work primarily in jazz." And he said, "Oh, that's nice." I said, "What do you do?" And the table got really quiet. And he said, "I'm a musician." And I said, "Oh, what kind of music do you work in?" And he said, "Well, I guess mostly pop. I'm a pop musician." I said, "Oh, and again, the table is dead silent. And it was James Taylor. Now, I was in high school. You guys were really cool. You were both rock and roll guys. I used to hide my jazz collection from my friends. Like if I had a boyfriend who was into Hendrix, so now I'm into Jimi Hendrix, which actually there is a Jimi Hendrix tune that I want to cover. That's, in my opinion, a jazz tune called "Up from the Skies." But I digress. You would not have been friends with me. I was very nerdy. I'm still very nerdy. I didn't.
Yeah, I was a nerd in high school. I was a nerd in high school who hadn't discovered hair care products, how to dress himself, was in the chess club. If I did not have hair care products, my hair would be about this much higher off my head. Like, it doesn't grow long. Mikey's hair grows long. When we started Cowboy Mouth, Grip was like, "Grow your hair long, man. You look more rock and roll." So I tried for like 6 months, and the shit just kept growing up and up and up. And finally, I had this rhododendron bush above my head, and it was never coming down. So I started keeping it short. And then years later, I found out if I'd known about hair care products, I could have tamed the beast that was my head.
Well, my sister was a folkie. My sister was a folk musician. She was in a folk trio with the guitars and all of that. And she had James Taylor records, but James Taylor had long hair. He had a beard. He was like really skinny. And this guy sitting next to me was balding, hairless, not skinny. How was I supposed to know who this guy was?
Right.
And
Yeah,
I
well,
read,
he
and,
was by then he was off the heroin, and the heroin was what kept
oh,
him
way
skinny.
off. Yeah, way off. This was not too long ago, actually. So well, it was when Mark and I first met. So it's like 30 years ago. Um, and I did that again. Like I was at when we lived in LA. I was at an art gallery opening with this artist friend of ours, and I was having this heavy political discussion with the artist and this other guy, and we're talking for about 45 minutes about politics. And finally, the discussion broke up when somebody came and said to the artist, "Hey, work the room a little." And I walked over to Mark, and Mark said, "So what was it like talking to Rye?" And I said, "Rye?" And he said, "Yeah, Rye Cooter." I said, "Oh, Rye Cooter's here?" And he said, "Yeah, you were just talking to him for 45 minutes." I said, "No, I was talking to that guy with Kenny about politics." He said, "Yeah, that was Rye Cooter."
Of course, Mark was impressed. Yeah.
Yeah, but how am I supposed to know? Like, these are not like if it was Hank Jones, which you all would be like, "Who's Hank Jones?" But I knew who Hank Jones was, or if it was any one of his brothers. When I was really young, when I was 19, I was in the room, the back, the band room with Miles Davis, sitting there frozen in, like I'm in a room with Miles Davis, I better shut up. Because I heard the stories and I just sat there. But it's Miles Davis. I mean, any one of
Yeah.
those guys, I know.
Right.
The funny
Yeah.
thing is that's probably why those guys like talking to you, because they're like, here's somebody who's talking to me and doesn't know who I am. It's a refreshing conversation. It's not oh my
Yeah.
God, you're so and so, and I mean that's not a conversation, right? I mean that's just
Right.
Well,
so
that's what's so nice about Paul. He's just so unaffected. So here he is, this rock star, taking me to
We,
meet me at
Me?
the column.
and he's just like, come on up and
What?
sing a song. It's one less song I have to play. Come on.
That's New Orleans, man. Everybody should get in the.
It was pre-sweater vest days, so this was before he was a big star of TV shows,
Well,
and
You can say
sweater
it,
vest.
TV and film. Yeah. That's where my future lies, TV and film. I can no longer hide my natural heat from the world.
It's true.
So we have gone 10 minutes overtime, which is kind of funny. This makes it an hour, but that's how much fun we were having with you. And before we wrap it up, I want to say thank you for doing my song "Empty Chair" on your new record. It's absolutely gorgeous. We're going to close the show with it. And I want to let the people that listen to it, I want to let the people that listen to it know that for you, the song became special because you lost one of your best friends to cancer a couple of years ago. And the song began to, she was your empty chair. But as fate would have it, you recorded it during the pandemic. And my brother John said, this is a really great song for Carmela to have of yours, because a lot of folks are facing empty chairs this year after the pandemic. So I think it's beautiful. You honor me for doing it. Your version is beautiful. I'm honored that you did it.
Well, I'm so grateful that you allowed me to cover it, and I have to tell you, like every, in LA, I did the mix, a remix in LA, and the engineer didn't mention anything about any of my tunes, not one word, but he loved yours.
Oh,
Really? That's sweet. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing.
Yeah.
Real quick, Philip, before you go, you saying thank you for the coffee mug. Good luck getting it. Paul's not going to follow through with that. Just
No,
so you
I'm
know.
going to do this. Amy and Philip know how to reach me privately. They have my email. Amy sends me her address, and Phil sends me his address, which I've driven to his house, but I'd never write people's addresses down. I'm terrible at filing. So they send me their address. They will have a mug, toot sweet.
Awesome.
Oh, look.
Thank you, Nina. I'm glad you paid. I'm glad you tuned in today. And so we're going to play this lovely, lovely song. And real quick before you go, is the record available for sale anywhere? Is there something that
It's up on Bandcamp for downloads right now, and I will have physical CDs because I'm old school. Probably.
Yeah, I have
in a
vinyl
couple.
because I'm way old school.
Well, I want to talk to you about vinyl. And then the technical release is the beginning of August, but I'll be happy to send you a CD. It's going to be on all the streaming services, whatever.
So what we'll do is you send me.
You'll have it you'll have it for sale at Louisiana Music Factory as well.
I hope to. If they'll take it, it will be there.
Well, do you have any of the old ones with you? Like, do you still have
they're
old
down
CDs?
there.
You already have them down there, so they'll take it.
Yeah,
I love Barry.
So
much like talking about people who love music, Barry Smith, who owns Louisiana Music Factory, that's a guy I've known since the early 80s. And he loves music as much as anybody I ever met. He sells it, he doesn't play it, but owning that store was a mission to him. It was, I remember chiding him when CDs came along saying, man, you should stop vinyl, blah, blah. He's like, I like vinyl. There's some people out there that still like vinyl. And now he just laughs. Vinyl's big money, But he stuck it through thick and thin. He stuck it through, a couple of locations, and nothing but love and respect for Barry Smith and all the folks at Louisiana Music Factory. So if you want Louisiana music, go to louisianamusicfactory.com.
Absolutely. And I'll get you real quick, people, if you guys want to, the same thing that we've done in the past, I'll get some information from Carmela. We'll put it up on the description. So if you want to come back to find links and things like that to get to her, to find her on Bandcamp and all that stuff, we'll put those links up.
You have a webpage, of course.
I do. It's my full name, my very long full name.
Great.
Okay, you'll send Mikey those links and we'll get them up on the description so people can find you.
Great.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys. This was fun.
I'm so glad you joined us. It was a lot of fun. And here we go.
Difficulties.
Yes, even through all the difficulties. So here we go.
That's right. We had a show last week where my shit wouldn't work so bad that we just called the show off. 4 minutes in, bucket, we're done.
Yeah, his internet was broken.
The way we look at it is, we are the sponsors. Mike and I put up the money. It was $750 to get the damn VMix accounts. So that makes us the official sponsors. And as long as we don't piss off the official sponsors, we can do whatever the fuck we want on this show. We can curse. I can get up and get a cup of coffee right after we sign in. I don't give a damn. I don't give a goddamn.
We're only responsible to those two idiots, and those two idiots don't seem to care about anything. So
they don't care about anything. Our sponsors are just a couple old stoners.
You are our favorite two idiots. Okay.
So let's hear this beautiful song.
That's something to hold on to, Carmela. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on Friday with the Superhero Review, and let's hear this lovely, lovely music.
I still think of things I think you'd like to know. In the morning when I read my paper, just before I realize what I thought was hanging in the air is here in an empty chair. Here in an empty chair, I still laugh out loud at things you used to say. Sometimes in the middle of a moment or a day, then I realize what I thought was hanging in the air is here in an empty chair. Here in an empty chair. Everything's in place, but the past has been erased, and nothing is the same that I can see. And I I don't understand why we're not holding hands. A second slip away from me. And it's funny, but I don't cry at night. Only in the morning when we said goodbye, and I realize what I thought was hanging in the air is here in an empty chair. Here in an empty chair. Everything's in place, but the past has been erased, and nothing is the same that I can see. And I don't understand why we're not holding hands. A second slip away from me. And it's funny, but I don't cry at night. Only in the morning when we said goodbye, and I realize what I thought was hanging in the air is here in an empty chair. Here in an empty chair.